right, we are here again. It is a weekend and it's Saturday, and I'm so glad to be here. Welcome to the Gracious Hope Live podcast. My name is Alexander Red, and of course, I'm the host of this program, along here with Reverend Suah S. Deddeh, who will be coming in shortly. And today we'll be talking about education, the essence of Liberian youth education and development. Now, education, we know that we all have the obligation somehow to unleash the potential of Liberian education for our youth, the youth that is a young population, and also their development. And in the face of adversity, education has always been the key to unlocking progress and empowering individuals. And so this rings particularly true for our country, Liberia, a country scarred by years of civil war and economic turmoil. And the essence of youth education and development in Liberia holds immense significance as the nation's future rests in the hands of its young generation. Liberia can build itself and pave the way for a brighter future by providing them with education, skills, and knowledge. And with its complex history, Liberia has encountered countless obstacles in its path or on its path to development. And the devastating civil war from 1989 to 2003 left the country in ruins, severely damaging its education system. Schools were demolished, teachers fled, and children were coerced into armed conflict. Consequently, illiteracy rates soared, robbing many young people or Liberians of the opportunity to receive a quality education. Nevertheless, Liberia has shown remarkable progress by prioritizing and investing in youth education and development in recent years. And this commitment is rooted in the understanding that education is a fundamental human right and a vital tool for eradicating poverty, fostering social cohesion, and driving economic growth. By investing in educating its young citizens, Liberia can break the circle of poverty and construct a prosperous and inclusive society. A notable initiative to enhance youth education in Liberia is the Partnership Schools for Liberia PSL program. Introduced in 2016, this groundbreaking public private partnership seeks to improve the quality of education by entrusting management and accountability to non state actors. PSL endeavors to bring expertise, resources, and innovation to schools across Liberia by collaborating with private organizations and NGOs. Now, this collaborative approach has improved student learning outcomes, increased enrollment rates, and reduced gender disparities. Furthermore, the essence of youth education and development in Liberia lies in addressing the country's unique needs. Liberians, home and abroad, are mustering the courage and the effort to educate our Liberian children. One of such person is Miss Ama Harris. She is the proprietress of the Rosetta Steps Education Foundation, started off in the borough of Nuku Town in Liberia. And Miss Harris is our special guest on this podcast. But then we know that youth development in Liberia encompasses more than just academic education. It also emphasizes vocational training and skills development. And so youth and their education and their development in Liberia should prioritize cultivating critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership skills. Liberia faces complex challenges that demand innovative solutions. And by nurturing these skills, young Liberians can become active participants in shaping their country's future, contributing to a nation building or to nation building and fostering a culture of democracy and good governance. And so then the essence of Liberian youth education and development cannot be overstated. Education is not merely a means of acquiring knowledge, but a catalyst for personal growth, empowerment, and societal progress. So then, by investing in education, that is in our educational system, and developing our youth with skills, knowledge, and abilities, Liberia can be can break free from the chains of its past and build a prosperous and inclusive society. And so we are so glad that we have our guest here today, Miss Harris, and she's going to be talking about her work, her education, her work, and her personal motivation to educate the Liberian children. And so we have a whole lot to learn about our educational system today. So be our guest. And it's a pleasure right now to bring on the co-host of this program, Reverend Suah S. Deddeh. Reverend Deddeh, we are back here again, and I'm so glad that we are talking about education this time today.
Indeed, this is a good transition from the other issues we've been discussing on this platform, which are
Mhm.
also informative and educational and instructive. But when it comes to education, especially young people education or youth education in our country, is of significance because you and I know from whence we've come. We grew up in a setting where we had an opportunity to be exposed to good education then in Liberia, even though we still had low shortcomings, but at least we were exposed to good education. And as you know, Alex, and our guest today, education in Liberia was severely affected by the Liberian civil wars from 1989 to 2023. We know how negatively impactful those wars were. In 2010, the literacy rate of Liberia, Alex, was estimated at 60.8%.
Wow.
And yes, it's 60.8%, and that constitutes 64.80% for males and 56.8% for females. So as you see, when it comes to the education level in Liberia, we see how impactful it is on our populace. Now, um, education in Liberia is free, or it should be free for primary students attending government schools. But
Mhm.
you and I know most of these schools lack adequate learning facilities, and that affected the learning atmosphere. When students are not in a good place of learning, they may not pay attention, and the teachers may not pay attention, and all kinds of things happen. So most parents prefer sending their kids to private schools, which, as you know, were often very expensive, and people could not afford them. So this discussion today kind of speaks to the issues we have, and our guest is working in areas where she can help ameliorate the problem we have in our educational system. But the question is her work being facilitated? When I say facilitated, I mean government has to provide the atmosphere for people to be able to come with private initiatives to help the system. Is she getting those kind of opportunities? That's why I'll be asking her today. So, Alex, welcome, brother, and I hope we have a blessed discussion with our guest today.
Yes, yes, we are looking forward to that. And our guest is preparing the background to come on. But before she gets here on live, we just want to let you know to our viewers, we'd like to say welcome once again to the Gracious Hope Live podcast. And we are here every Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, in Liberia or the GMT time is 8 p.m. And so, with pleasure, right now, we bring in our guest, and her name is Miss Amanti Harris. So, I'd like to say welcome to the Gracious Hope podcast. And we know that you are the director and also the proprietress of the Rosetta Steps Education Foundation. You started off from Nickel Town, and now you are blossoming and helping, even though there might be sometimes where you need the logistics, but at the same time you muster the courage to educate our young people.
Good evening, Alexander. Good evening, Pastor Swag Deddeh, and thank you so much for this invitation. Um, it's always nice to have your work acknowledged, and it was a pleasant surprise when I received the call from you. And I was indeed happy that you've given us yet another opportunity to talk about our beautiful country, Liberia, to highlight some of the progress that has been made in a sector that I hold very dear to my heart. So thank you for having me. Thank you for having the Rosetta Steps family, which I represent. Thank you so much.
That's good. That's good. So, looking at education, looking at our young people, let's start from the beginning here. You saw the need that there should be a school. Your parents were educators. Now, you may say your motivation comes from your parents, but some children that they grow up, that motivation may come from what our parents do. But you took the route of becoming a teacher and an educator and also educating young children? Why not adults? Why children? Why?
Why children? First of all, I would say I would thank God because growing up, and also I would thank my parents and the kind of home that we grew up in. My mother was always someone who kept us in tune with the challenges and the suffering of others. At no point in time, even when our own needs were satisfied, were we allowed to be blind to whatever the needs of those around us were. And I think sometimes that comes from coming from a background of lack, for whatever reason it was, whatever it is that drove her. I thank God for that. So we grew up in a home basically where we were always told that we had to look out for others. So I left Liberia during the war. I stayed in Liberia up until grade 9, and then due to the war, we fled to Nigeria, where I finished high school and then went on to do some studies in neighboring West African countries. On my return to Liberia, what I did see was a great disparity in the education that I had received in Nigeria versus what I saw happening here. And it was just a day that I visited my grandmother's house in Yukutown. You know, Yukutown is one of those areas where people don't like to live. So you'd be surprised that this three-bedroom house was up for rent for $200 a year. And I looked at it and I said, well, in my opinion, this is a waste. Let me see how we can give back. And there are so many educational programs that you could structure, but children are hold dear to my heart. I'm a lover of kids. I'm a lover of youth and young adults as well, but my passion is for children. So my first idea was to turn my grandmom's house into a reading room where all the little people that I had seen running around with all shoes, running, playing in the sand, could come to on Saturdays. And like I said, I'm a Liberian. I know the challenges of living in Liberia. I understand that feeding and nutrition was also an issue. So what we did was structure a program whereby kids could come in on Saturdays, learn a little bit, have something to eat, and then return to their homes. Just a safe space for kids in the Newtown community. That was our original intent, and that's how the Rosetta Steps Foundation came about.
That's interesting. I'm just curious to know, where did this fund come from? Um, making ends meet is not always easy, but you saw the need to get involved. Did you just start with your personal funds, or you started with some collaboration or partnership with someone else?
That's an interesting question because I would like to switch it and say, where didn't the funds come from? The funds came from everywhere, but mostly from my pocket. And the renovation of the house took at least 6 to 8 months because most of it was self-funded. And thanks for the job that I hold. Also, I do have a lot of friends, and everyone I came across during that period, if you met me, was, hey, hi, look, I'm trying to do something for kids in Yucatan. You want to help? And it was a $50 here, $100 there. We did not receive any funding from any organization during the renovation process. All of the renovation was funded out of pocket and with contributions from friends and families in different. I remember Yvonne Bright, the owner of Sharks, my colleagues in the office will say, Ama, because I talked about it a lot. I mean, if you spoke to me for 10 minutes, I would talk about this great project I was working on. So most times people would say, oh, how is it going? I would say, oh, fine, but just that we need 2 bags of cement. And sometimes it was $20, sometimes it was $10. And it was not until we had completed the renovation that we were able to write a NASCOP for a grant, and they were able to provide us with, I still remember, 35 chairs and desks for our people. And that's how we're able to open up. But it was self-funded, funded by friends and relatives. And I always tell people that say, oh, Liberians don't support each other. I say, I don't know the Liberians you know, but the Liberians I know have
Yeah.
been there for me. They've supported me and they supported this cause. And I'd like to thank all of them publicly for that, whether it was financial or even a word of encouragement or even just a word of concern. That's how we managed to renovate. And when I say the house was dilapidated, it was. I mean, we had to do floors, ceiling, tiles, just about everything. And the house is right in the middle of the slum or the ghetto of Town. I mean, we were right there. And
Mm.
2 seconds away, someone smoking the opium. Across the street, there's someone's bathroom. But it just became such a beauty and oasis in the middle of everything. And that's how we started it. But we started with little, or I would say we started with nothing, and we were able to complete it.
Yeah, and it takes courage to do that as a woman, and you have other obligations as well, and to keep going is what we call, perseverance, and to persevere through where you say, well, no money, but friends can chip in, and some grateful friends,
Exactly.
they were able to help you along the way. Now, if you look at education as a whole and look at your institution, what are you doing differently from the others to educate the children? What, like
The
your in terms
first
of your
thing,
curriculum and other activities?
the first thing I would say that we do differently is that we consider ourselves to be the beacon of hope for our community. We are more than a school, we are a family. And we're a family, the way we operate, we're a family in the sense that all of our teachers come from within the community. And because they do, we are well aware of the challenge every individual child faces in the family situation. And don't forget, where we are currently is where I myself grew up. Okay. So I'm in touch with the community, in touch with the people. So we're more than a school.
Mhm.
At any point in time, our teachers are in the hospitals making sure a parent is getting the kind of treatment that they require. At any point in time, our teachers are sometimes feeding children who come to school without any lunch. And apart from, yes, I wouldn't toot our horn, but I think we have very rigorous educational programs. And the reason it is that way is that having been educated in Nigeria with the British curriculum, we kind of infuse different elements into learning that is not typically done here or is necessarily required. So that's our strength. But in the meanwhile, we're a family. I remember we're out there at any point in time. We're sourcing grants, and the grants sometimes that we're sourcing is not just to buy books and copybooks and pencils. In recent times, we received grants where we're able to carry out medical tests for all of our students. And you'll be surprised at some of the health challenges that they had, but they were not aware, students, including teachers. We just distributed bags of rice to our teachers. I mean, that's how involved we are, and I would say that more than anything accounts for our success to date. We started off with 20 students, of which only 12 were paying students, the rest were scholarship students. And that is something that we do. So the community sees us, they trust us. And what we do additionally is we tailor all of our programs. I give you an example. When we first started, most schools closed at 1 p.m. We were closing schools at 3. We had the first incident of a child being burnt by hot water.
Hmm.
I said, okay, we talked to the parents. The second incident of a child going missing, we extended our hours to 4 p.m. And in Liberia, when you say 4, the person not coming for the child until 5 or 6. And all those things are intentional because we're well aware that the parents of these kids do not have the resources to employ caretakers at home. So sometimes I know my teachers, if they are listening, they feel overburdened. But sometimes I give them a lot of trouble because we try to meet the parents. Some people say meet people halfway, but I think we go more than halfway. We go like 75% of the way to ensure that not only that the kids are taught that they are safe and that their psychosocial environment and their nutritional, because all those things affect education. So that's what we do. We're very thoughtful about whatever we do in our schools.
That's great. That's great. And
Yes,
so looking
that's
at the size,
interesting.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Go
Reverend
ahead,
Deddeh.
Alex. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, I was talking about the size of your school. You started off in Nukuta. Is this something that you want to extend to other communities?
Oh, so talking about our population and our expansion plans, we started off with 25 students in my grandmother's three-bedroom house in Yukutam. And the teachers came and said, "Boss, I mean, the demands are so much. We have to move." So I had to pack my bags from my house or my parents' house on Kawa Road and move to Old Road, your area, as you mentioned earlier. And we moved into my mother's house, which was a bigger facility. It was a four-bedroom house, including living room. And we expanded to 75 students. And we kept growing. And they came back again. They said, Oma, you got to find. I said, so what do you people want me to do? Right now, you have me renting in Liberia, something I've never done since I was born. So I had built a house, and I would like to say, I was just having a conversation the other day about the importance of mortgage loans. So there was a time LBDI had a mortgage loan, and I accessed that opportunity. So I built a house out on the Robertsville Highway, which I intended to move in. And there was no option. So what I did was I sold the house, and with the funds from the sale, we've constructed a 10 classroom facility. So in the same space of my mother's home. So what we have now is a 15 room facility, and we now have a student population of 242.
Hmm.
Our long-term plan, like I always tell people, and people say, what about the hinterland? I said, yes, there's a need there. There is a need there. But when I see the overpopulated, underserved communities in Liberia, it's like leaving people here to go extend yourself when there are so many. Because when I look at an area like Sonny Wayne, I look at an area like Peace Island, I look like an area like even not, even the Old Road area, you have underserved communities in those areas. And by underserved, I mean communities where people live who earn because most of our parents are people who earn minimum salaries, $100 to $150 to $300 a month. Their kids deserve to go to school. And we all know that the public school facilities aren't adequate. I'm 43 years old. From the time I was 1 year old, I heard about Tubman High being the largest public school. It still is.
Hmm.
That tells you that in the past 30 to 40 years, we haven't expanded our public school outreach to those who need it the most. So where are these kids being educated? So they're being educated in churches, on the palava huts, on people's porches, and they are being charged, in some cases, astronomical school fees for the lowest quality of education ever.
Hmm.
So what we intend to do at Rosetta Steps is expand into underserved communities, communities where we're needed the most, because our program is tailored to that. We're not tailored to the creme de la creme of society. We're not tailored to middle income communities. Our programs are tailored to underserved. I don't like to call them poor communities or poverty stricken areas. That's where. So that's our plan to extend in the, at least in the next 2 years to hit one or two of those communities. And sometimes I like to say this because what you don't realize is that within those communities, there are people who maybe can afford $200 or $300 a year to educate their child. But if the child needs to leave that community and take a taxi to Broad Street to a Convent or a CWA every day, that's a $4 to $5 expense added on top of the cost of education. And what we do is when we're there, that cost is eliminated. The cost of transporting your child to town just to access quality education, the cost of having someone to take. I know that many parents have to find somebody to take taxi with a child, drop them, bring them back simply because there's no good school in your community. So what our presence does is, that's why I tell people when they say, "Oh, you charge a fee," I say, "Yes, we charge because we want to remain sustainable." But how we give back is that for every four paying students, we take in one non-paying, one scholarship or one free students, and sometimes we source scholarships for them. But once we take you in as a scholarship student, we never drop you. Even if your sponsor does not come in the next year, the school takes in that responsibility. So
Hmm.
that's what we do.
Wow, that is a calling on you. I mean, that's a big tax you put on yourself. But I'm thinking about we talk about quality education. It comes not just from the curriculum, but from the teachers as well. So, would you mind telling us the quality of teachers you have? How do you hire them? What measurement you use to hire your teachers, and where are they from? Are you basing it on the Ministry of Education? Ministry of Education skill of hiring teachers, or you have a different one that you coached to enhance education in Liberia? How are you hiring your teachers and who are they?
Good question. It's one of the most difficult things to get qualified teachers in Liberia right now. And sometimes I like to go back. And I told someone the other day, I say, my mother had a high school diploma, a college degree from the University of Liberia. She received a USAID scholarship and she went to the States, Fresno States, and then she got a degree in English, in teaching in education. And she returned back to Liberia and she was a sixth grade teacher.
Hmm.
It tells you the caliber of people we had in our classrooms then. Unfortunately, now anyone with that kind of qualification can only be found in the Ministry of Education doing administrative work. And that is sad. So if you're running a school in Liberia right now, most times I just recruit qualified and trainable people. In fact, the first teachers that I started with, because like I said, we didn't start as a school, it was supposed to be a reading room. We only and I did it right in my living room. We had classes every Saturday and they learned phonics for the first time. So the way we recruit now is we just look for people who can be trained. Because thanks to certain things like the internet, if you have the basic skills or the basic foundation, even though there are, as a teacher, there are certain skills that you have to be born with, but if you have those skills, you can manage the situation. And that's what we're doing. We do have at least 3 or 4 teachers with a BSc in education, and we have a couple of teachers with certificates in education. But I tell you the fact, the educational system here is of such now that certificates or they mean absolutely nothing. I remember once I had a teacher who had just graduated from the University of Liberia the week before. We had all celebrated his graduation. And he got a BSc in agriculture. I was doing a training with him the following week, and this teacher had difficulty pronouncing a 5-letter word. I have a teacher with BSc from Cottington University that I had to teach how to read second grade material. How that happens, don't ask me, but it happens. So it tells you how difficult it is. Before you knew if you employed John Brown from University of Liberia, you knew the caliber of person you were employing. Right now, we train our teachers on an almost daily basis. It's very difficult, it's very challenging, but the only alternative is to source teachers from outside of Liberia, which as an institution we cannot yet afford. And also for national pride and in order to build confidence in Liberians, I like to take up the challenge. In fact, right now the challenge in the school is that every teacher reads a book a week.
Hmm.
So just
Hmm.
2 days ago, everybody went home with a book and is writing a book report. So we do those things from time to time. Is it more difficult? Yes. But in the long term, what we're doing is letting Liberians know that you can do it.
Yeah.
If you apply the personal effort, it can be done. And like I told them last week, I said, So we're having a teacher training. This teacher sat there, because like I said, it's a recurring conversation, And he said the reason English is a challenge for him is because both of his parents were not literate. And when he learned English in school, he went home to speak his local dialect. So I told him, excuse my language, I said, don't tell me any nonsense. Because I sit here as a child of parents who both grandparents were illiterates. But my father will tell you that he decided to learn the dictionary from A to Z.
Mm-hmm.
And because he committed that time to learning, he was able to impart into me. So there is no excuse. Because if he hadn't done it, he would not have had the ability to correct me, to teach me along the way, and I would not be sitting here today. So I just told him, I said, you know what, my friend? You're not going to let your child linger in the same darkness that you find yourself in. Everybody, and we have a team of 25. So at every point in time, someone is learning something.
Hmm.
That's what we do with our team, and that's how we do it.
So you go through rigorous uh, um, um, measure in order to find the qualified teacher, not just looking at the credentials or the paperwork that it present to you, uh, but you also look at the quality of their speech and the way they answer questions, or you would like for your teachers to be tailored to your curriculum or your philosophy of education. And that is a very beautiful thing that you are doing. And we'll take a break here and we'll be right back here. And to all our listeners right now, we'd like to say thank you so much for watching us. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. And our special guest today, of course, is Miss Ama Harris, and she is the director of the Rosetta Steps Education Foundation in Liberia. And she is talking about educating the young people and developing them with different skills and capacities that they can use for a brighter Liberia. And we'll be right back. Please don't go away. All right, and we are back here on the Gracious Hope Live podcast. Once again, my name is Pastor Alexander Red, and Reverend Suah S. Deddeh is also here as a co-host. And we've been talking about the essence of Liberian youth education and development. And Ms. Harris is talking about the steps that she is taking along with her staff to educate the young people in our country. We know we have a youth burge in our country. The population is increasing, and we want future leaders, leaders that are trained educationally and also with the skills that our country need right now. And so we'd like to say welcome back to the second segment of this program, and we will continue. And Miss Harris, I know you've been talking about your way of hiring your teachers for your school and looking at the students that you have. They are all different, or when I say diverse background, the way they grew up, their own life story, their parents, and also the language that they speak. In Liberia, we have local languages. We have 13 counties. We got about almost 17 mother tongue kind of language, our native dialects, or let me say dialects, and so it's a very huge task for you to deal with teachers and students in learning, and not just learning from the textbook, but also learning that social skills as a whole, social skills. Now, what I wanted to know: do you incorporate the Bible, in your curriculum?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it's a my teachers and I we go back and forth, but the Liberian curriculum we are required to teach religious instruction, so we teach both um, from the Bible. But our school is it's a Christian school. But we also teach a little bit of Quran and as other religions as well.
Okay, you teach the Quran, you educate them about Islam,
Yes,
just
so our
how
students
you.
are educated about Islam as well as Christianity, but our assembly is conducted as a Christian school. We sing religious songs. And it's funny because I was very uneasy about it in the beginning about how it would be perceived by non Christians. We do have a lot of non Christians in the school, a lot of Fullahs, Muslims in the school, but they have come to accept it. And I guess we teach so well that they say, okay, fine, as long as you people teach our kids, that's fine. They can stand there and listen to the Christian songs in the morning. Yes, but God is a central part of our instruction as well.
And how why you think it is so important that students or children learn about God?
It is important, but because He is the creator, and Christianity and our God teaches us about how we should care for others, and the Bible teaches us discipline as well, which is something that everyone wants. Everyone wants to have a child that is disciplined. Everybody wants. If you look at the Christian principles in the Bible, these are principles that are needed and when applied to everyday life, there's no way you can go wrong and not be successful. I mean, it's all there. Honor your father and your mother so that your days can be long. The Bible has covered all aspects of life. So it is very important and it is key. And I would say over time, even in dealing with staff, I tend to find that those that are deeply grounded in their faith have much more of an open mind and a much different approach to life than those aren't. And even for me personally, belief in God has been the essence of and has guided me in doing so many things that I've done till today. So it is important.
Yeah, it is important. And how does that weave into your own faith in Jesus Christ? How did you come to faith? Let us talk about your faith.
What I came to faith through my I would say my parents, mostly my mom, she was deeply religious. We went to sleep listening to ERW and woke up within 24 hours. And I remember she was so religious that she left Liberia in June of 1990. So she was in the States when the war broke out. And because someone had gifted her this Bible, the Bible was this large. So when we were fleeing the house as a 10-year-old, and I was very close to my mother, and I grabbed that Bible, and my father was like, can you take food or something? I said, no, I have to take Mama's Bible because when I see her, I have to give it to her because I knew if she had just that was something she held on to. That was something she made us believe in. So yeah, it came from my mom, and even when I went to school in Nigeria, in high school in Nigeria, in addition to being a prefect, I was also the deputy head of the church. I was our boarding the church in our boarding school, which was a boarding school of almost 3,000 students. So there we had to mentor, we had to conduct services every Sunday. We were looked up to, we're called church workers. And a lot of students depended on us for guidance on day-to-day life and how to deal with so many things growing up. So Christianity and faith has been a big part and still is a big part of who I am. I enjoy I enjoy the blessings of God. In fact, sometimes I tell people I'm even afraid to pray because just the other day we had an issue with a well, and I'm sitting in my office, and I woke up that morning and I said, God, how are we fixing this well? And this person walks in and with and peep in, and I didn't recognize him. So I said, could you kindly wait, sir? I was a bit, rough because like you came and you met a queue, and this gentleman just goes, no, Ama, it's me. Every time I come, I bring something for you. And he had a bottle of non-alcoholic wine. He's a Christian himself, so he gave it to me. And then, so I was a little bit ashamed, that someone was just trying to give me a gift. And I thought it was a customer saying, can you? So anyway, I said, oh, because I didn't remember him. So I said, you into work, right? He said, development work. He said, yes. I said, so what do you do? And he said, I'm building a well in Nimba. I build wells for a living. And I had slept all night on our mind was we need to fix it well. So sometimes I tell people that it's gotten to the point where I'm even afraid to pray because most times, maybe because a lot of times the prayers aren't for my self gratification, but God always comes through and He's been faithful.
That's wonderful, wonderful. In everything we do, faith is a foundation to success, especially if you're not relying on just yourself, but depending on God and not leaning on your own understanding. So faith, we need faith. For us who exercise faith, it does not mean you wouldn't have challenges or you wouldn't have problems or setbacks, but your faith will keep you going through those setbacks and those problems that
It makes your approach to problems different. We all will
exactly.
face the same problems, but you don't see it at the end.
Exactly, exactly,
You're
exactly.
able to
Like
battle
like
it.
I tell people that tough times don't last. But tough people who rely on Christ Jesus, who depend on Christ Jesus, will last. But let me come back to I'm thinking in my mind. You talk about training the teachers, those who you see the qualities in you train them. My first question, and then I will ask the second one. So just put your thumb on that, and then I will ask the second one, and you can maybe respond to both of them at the same time. You who's doing this teaching, training these teachers? Who are the trainers of trainers? Who are the trainers of these teachers that you use to prepare them? Because some of them don't have teacher certificates from what I'm hearing from you, but you still look at their gifts and their abilities and you train them. So the question is, who's training them? The second thing is that, yeah, you just give your thumb on that. You want to answer that first before I go to the second one?
Oh no, I can take both of them.
Okay, great, great. So the Human Rights Measurement Initiative, the HRMI, finds that Liberia is fulfilling only 35.9% of what it should be fulfilling for the right to education based on the country's income. So the country's income percentage is used for the right to education that will be invested in the educational system for students for to improve the educational standing. Now, HRMR breaks down the right to education by looking at the rights to both primary and secondary education. Now, while taking into consideration Liberia's income level, the nation is achieving just 45%, 45.7% of what should be possible based on its resources for primary education and just 26% for secondary education. So my question is, in all of what you're doing, is government reaching out to you while you try to help develop the youth capacity, or are you reaching out to government to tell them you are there and you need their attention?
Okay. So I think let me start with the training, or let me start with the HRMI question, which is a very interesting approach to what is expected of governments. I mean, I'm just learning of that today, but I like that approach because it's based, because many times governments hide under, oh, we are a poor country, that umbrella. But I like the fact that it links it to your current income. So it's basically telling you, even with what you earn now, you can do it. And that's an interesting approach. And I'm not surprised, neither am I shocked. Because, like people say, what statistics are you working with? Unfortunately, there are so many measures that we should have, but because getting some of those statistics require funding, and we haven't even sourced funding for those kind of things because you have to know the depth of the problem to even begin to find the solutions of it. But
Yeah.
like I tell people, even if you scan your immediate environment in Liberia, you will know how much more Liberia needs to do in terms of education. Every one of us sitting here has an aunt or aunt that has never been to school. Every one of us has an employee who cannot read or write. I've traveled to countries and I've had some intelligent conversations with taxi drivers, people in basic employment. We tend to think that somehow education should be for the privileged, but that is not the case. That is not how you develop a country. That's not how you can grow as a country. It should be a basic human right. It should be readily available. People, I mean, I interviewed a teacher last week who came from a school where he was teaching 50 students in a classroom.
Mm.
And that is typical. Even currently, even in our capital city, we still have students sitting on the ground to study. So I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. Have we received assistance from government? Well, it's nothing official. I mean, it so happens that one of our administrators has close links with the Ministry of Education. So they, from time to time, they conduct teacher trainings and different workshops. And whenever they receive funding for books, they do distribute. But is it a kind of support that we would like to receive? No. Is there more that they can do? Yes. But I like to say this. My prayer is that if it's there for them to do, I would like to see them pump it into the public school sector. The reason why you have a proliferation of private schools, everywhere you turn in Liberia is another school. The reason why I even exist, not that I mind existing, but it would be nice one day to walk into Rosetta Steps and only see 10 students in a classroom because our government has built a state-of-the-art public school next door that is for free. That is what I wish to see. And we have friends in government, and I'm in addition to everything I'm doing, I'm also a Rotarian. So we work sometimes. We're very well aware of the problems in the different sectors because education is a sector that of Rotary is one of the pillars of Rotary. I don't like to be critical. I'm a very positive person, but I always tell people, we say we are a small community. Let's use this sense of community to encourage those of our friends, our husbands, our wives that are in positions of public authority to do better. There's so much more that can be done. And one of the first things that you can do is to increase the budget for education. It's heavily underfunded. Yes, I know corruption and so many other things exist, but that's the first sign from a government perspective that you can show that you have an interest, in education. And the reason why I believe it can be done, I tell people, is because my mother was the principal for GW Gibson. I know what happened there. I know what they did there with students. She was also the principal for the William V.S. Tubman High. And I saw the magic that was worked. Not only in the sense of children making better grades, but the hope that was restored in those students. So much so that I remember after the war, those students got together and built a monument. If you walk into Tubman High now, there's a monument there to her. But the reason she was able to do all those things was she wasn't working in isolation. President Doe and then the MCSS, they gave a lot to education. They gave a lot. I remember when she first took over Tubman High, the first thing she told the president was, I cannot be principal of a school without a fence because I can't restrict my students from going. And a fence was built within 3 months. So once the teachers, the principals, the superintendents in the educational sectors have that kind of support, yes, there are lapses, yes, they need training, but there's a whole lot that they can do if they get the kind of support that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, Rome was not built in a day, but we need to be intentional. When you go through 14 to 20 years of civil war where other countries have been developing, you need to be intentional about where you want to take your country to. And you need to have a plan and you need to give the relevant sectors the kind of support they need. So if there's anyone in the public sector that is listening, please have mercy on our children in the educational sector.
That's good. That's good. And we all understand that education is a fundamental human right and a vital tool for eradicating poverty, fostering social cohesion, and driving economic growth. And so, investing in educating the young children or our young citizens, we know Liberia can be broken away from the circle of poverty, and then we can have a prosperous and inclusive society. Now, for your foundation, that is for your school foundation, you have other plans ahead to expand and to make sure that you have graduates that will contribute to the immediate community and also beyond as well. So then, what I want to know in the next few minutes, because we got a few more minutes, so we'll be out of here. Um, how do you envision your school and your students and the outcome from educating them that will benefit society?
So this is what I tell my teachers, because we have done a census and it's established. I said, look, in these walls, we teach as if when our students leave, they're blind, they're deaf, and they're dumb. In these walls, we teach them as if their life and everything they will ever know depends on us. And what we try to do, our philosophy is that we approach it, because the truth of the matter is when you're dealing with families from lower income, they're very vulnerable. The death of one parent sometimes means no education for 3 or 4 kids, sometimes even just mother falling sick. We've had those cases. Sometimes it's just papa say this school too expensive, you need to go somewhere else. I've had a parent come and say, no, my son is not making good grades. I want you to exchange him with the other girl and I want him to go to the garage to sell. So for us, we teach our kids in a way, and our intent for the current center that we have is to expand up to the ninth grade. So by the time this child leaves us at the ninth grade level, even if they never enter a classroom again, they can be a functional and a contributing member of society. And that's why we emphasize heavily on our reading, phonics, and comprehension programs, because that's the basis of learning anything else in life. So if John Brown leaves tomorrow and he can't even see the walls of a classroom again, but he has the talent to be a tailor, he's going to be able to measure better because we've shown him how to measure. If he decides to be a masoner, he's going to lay better blocks because we've taught him area, perimeter better. And I might not get to see some of those kids as adults, but I definitely tell them, and I see it because I tell the teachers, I said 20 years from now, and it has happened now. The other day I was approached by the Rotary Club, and they said, Auntie Amma, we organized and I was spelling bee. But could you please not send your students, because when they come, they take first, second, and third prize.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I see that's going to happen in the future. Those kids are going to walk into job interviews, and because we teach oral language, which is not something the Ministry of Education has asked us to teach, but I know that when I meet people, they assess me by how I speak. So it's a subject in our school. So we're
Yes,
very
yes.
practical in our
Yeah,
approach to
and not
learning.
just to interrupt you, we got like 4 minutes left. Now, yes, speech is always important, and I have noticed that over and over. Even my own experience when I came to the states to go to school here, yes, speech is very important, and it took me time, and I had to fall in love with reading as well. So just nail
Mhm.
it down in a summary here because we lack of time here, and so I will, Reverend Deddeh will come in maybe with his last question. What is the curriculum like? So you got like, for example, you got math, science, civic lessons, or how is your curriculum sketched out?
So we teach the basics that are required in the lower classes. They take most subjects because we kind of split it up between the pre-K one, which is 3 years old, up until kindergarten two. We teach additional subjects like oral language separately. We break down their alphabet recognition, alphabet recital, those things. They're taught separately and they are tracked. So on any given day, we know who can recite up to what letter. We know who needs to be pushed. We know who needs to be pulled. So we do have a more scientific approach to teaching. Now, between first grade and the seventh grade, some of the things that we teach that aren't required, we teach what we call quantitative aptitude, which is not mathematics, but is reasoning, mathematical reasoning, and it enhances your ability to think faster. It teaches you sequencing. We also teach verbal aptitude, which is not actually English, but verbal aptitude would focus more on your synonyms, antonyms, those kind of things. And we teach sight words as a separate subject. Which so as a school we have a target of 1,000 sight words, and we track our students along the way. We have a very rigorous oral frequency reading fluency program. So yeah, we do a lot of things that help to enhance learning. Another thing we do, we have televisions in most of our classrooms that helps to bring learning to life, especially in the areas of science, social studies. We're very practical in our approach to learning.
Okay,
Wow,
Reverend
that's
Deddeh.
great. Yeah, that's great. I'm just pivoting a little bit to international NGO USAID that is implementing the youth advanced activity to increase the economic self-reliance and reliance of Liberian youth in targeted areas of Bassa, Lo-Fi, Maserati County. Are you in any way in connection with USAID? Because they are now providing over 21,000 young people with skills and experience and support and relationship to productively engage with the local economies. So, any connection with you say so far?
Well, no, and I wouldn't be able to assess some of those programs because I don't know their curriculum. I don't know the lifespan of those programs. Because I can tell you that a lot of those things need to be more holistic in their approach because I think they're more like a fire brigade approach to learning than anything. So you said most times their programs support government programs, not private programs. And I'll give you an example. USAID has produced an early grade reading textbook, which we use as a supplementary material, but which I feel is far below this international standards for reading.
Hmm.
And why would you pump so much money into such a project? I don't know. Liberian kids do not deserve to read any less than the kids abroad. There are
Hmm.
scientific reading programs that all you need to do is purchase and provide. So why are you bringing Liberian teachers together to write textbooks? Maybe it's going up the hill, and you know because of the brain drain in the country, those textbooks are not going to evolve beyond what they themselves have in there. I can only write what I have in my mind. So
Hmm.
we do use their materials here and there, but I don't rely on them. If you tell me SRA is what is used in American schools, that's what I want in my school. If you tell me this is what the British educational system relies on to get the kind of results they have, that's why we want in our school. We don't want anything watered down for
Yeah.
Liberian students. No.
Yeah. And your background is so unique. You went to school in Nigeria, you went to school in the Ivory Coast, and currently you are uh, a supervisor for Brussels Air, or yeah, Brussels Air
Yeah.
locally in Liberia. You have all of these going on, working and then working as an educator and working with teachers and working with students. It seems like a lot for you. Um, how do you find balance? And this is the last question. How do you find balance with all of these things going on?
I think the way I find balance is that I only do things that I love. I love, even when I finished high school, they asked, what do you want to be? I wanted to work with the airlines. And that's what I did. And what else do I love? I love teaching. So even though I'm the agency supervisor for Brussels Airlines, I spend a lot of my time doing training in Liberia. I've done training out of Liberia. So training, teaching, spreading knowledge, I think is something that kind of comes naturally. So am I having fun even though I'm standing in a classroom? Yes, but if you don't love it, it's not fun for you. My best days is when I'm working it, and I enjoy it and I love it. And those that are close to me understand that. So to love me is to have to love, to understand that I like to work and I like to keep busy. And the reason why I enjoy teaching is you see progress on a minute to minute basis. So when a child comes in front of you and they cannot pronounce a word, and in a 1 minute you've taught them, other people do their work and they need 6 months to see the effect of their work. I see the effect of my work on a minute to minute basis. So that's the joy I get from doing it. And I have no qualms with my life as it is. It's well
Okay.
balanced.
Well, that's good. And some of your hobbies, like what? What do you do? Do you like dancing? TikTok
Oh, yeah, I
video?
like dancing. My daughter says I don't dance well, but I think I'm a good dancer. Uh, I like dancing. I like meeting people. I like socializing. I'm a very social person.
And you like to exercise too, though, right?
Yes, yes, I like to exercise, even though the older you get, the harder it is. But
Mhm.
I like to think I do a good job. I also enjoy cooking and having friends over. That's something I enjoy as well.
That's good. Well, this is how we'll conclude our program today. We'd like to say thank you so much, Ms. Harris, Ama T. Harris, for joining us as our special guest today. And thank you for responding to our invitation. And thank you for having this conversation regarding educating the young people in our country. We appreciate you and your work that you do. And we look forward to working with you again. I mean, coming on our program to talk more about your work and how your work is impacting uh, children in our local communities like Nuku Town and other places, and also the future outcome of some of those kids. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you
you,
very
and
much. Thank you.
thank you for having me, and to everyone that has tuned in, and to Liberians all around the world. I say, hope is not lost. We have one of the greatest country on the planet Earth. Other countries have been through worse. The ones you live in today, they came through these same circumstances, but the only difference is that the citizens stood up and were intentional about taking their countries out of the dungeons. So we have to be intentional about it, and that's how I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Amma. All right, and this is how we conclude our podcast. Reverend Deddeh, thank you so much for coming. And any last word before we depart here?
Well, all I can say, my last word is usually my first word. To God be the glory for great things He has done and greater things He will do. And this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Yes, we'll rejoice and we will be glad. And until then, we'd like to say goodbye for now. Have a great weekend.